Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My belly is full. My brain is also full of knowledge to drop about fantasy football. It is Tuesday, January 28th. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon, who's equally filled with McDonald's. I did not eat
You can
McDonald's.
do the show without me.
Yeah, that's nasty, bro.
Listen,
I was like,
you can't get on me for eating McDonald's because
I got
it's
food
cheap
for you.
and
I
I'm
was
young.
like, yeah, I got food for you. I can feed you. And you're like, oh, skirt, okay. And then, and then you go to McDonald's. You roll up with McDonald's. I'm like, bro.
Listen, you know when I pull out, I'm not gonna.
I was like, what's taking
you know when I
so
when I
long?
drive by that area and I see
And
McDonald's,
you can't stop.
I can't not turn right.
That's disgusting. We got a lot to get to in this episode. This is Super Bowl week. We have entered
It is.
Super Bowl week, so maybe we'll make some predictions on the Thursday show. Not on this one, though. Not on this one. So
I predict.
if you're looking for predictions, they're not here.
Yeah, pick it and stick it.
We will not be doing quick reactions about the Pro Bowl.
We're not. I took 50 notes.
Oh, you watched that whole game, didn't you?
I don't think I watched a
No,
second. of it.
I didn't.
I don't think I've watched the Pro Bowl for like 4 years.
Yeah, probably.
I think it's been about 4 or 5 years.
No,
since
I
watched
think
the
the
Pro
last time I watched the Pro Bowl was when I was like 7 years old.
Bowl. How long ago?
That was like when it was after the Super
That
Bowl.
was. Oh wow!
Do you remember that? This is a long time ago. That's the last time I watched the Pro Bowl.
I don't even think I do.
I don't even think I get an opinion about the Pro Bowl.
I used to watch the Pro Bowl a lot when I was younger.
Yeah, I don't think I get an opinion about the Pro Bowl anymore, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody cares.
No one cares about my opinions on the freaking Pro Bowl.
I don't think anyone cares about the Pro Bowl.
I would agree. Even like I
Even
saw
the players in the Pro
stadium.
Bowl.
I saw a video clip after the game of the stadium, and it was like maybe 2/3 of the way full, and I was like, not even the people in Miami or where were they? Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Not
And the
even
people that were
in
there were
Hawaii
only
don't care.
talking about Kobe, and all the
Yep.
players too,
Yep.
like Drew Brees, Lamar, Mark Ingram.
Well, I heard Lamar did throw 2 touchdowns,
Yes, he did.
and that he also looked like trash in the skills comp.
Don't know.
That's what I heard.
Skills comp. Let me tell you, that is something I watch.
No, I heard that was on. I was like, wait a minute, what? They do that now? I feel like I'm so
have
disconnected.
dodgeball.
Like I tune out for a whole week
Yeah.
before the Super. Like it's the week in preparation leading up to Super
I know.
Bowl
It's
week.
like it's probably too because we're Patriots fans.
Like, and I'm low key
And we're
lit
just-
about watching Media Day, even though my team's not in it. Like I care. This is
You
what
would
I
rather
do.
watch me. I would
Super
rather
Bowl-
watch Media Day too, though.
Super Bowl week for me is like amazing. It's like Christmas.
I
get to-
wouldn't go that far.
I get to watch.
unless the Pats are in it.
I get to watch Media Day,
Or
which is
Jimmy G, so I
ridiculous.
guess.
I thoroughly enjoy that for some reason.
Yeah.
But I get to watch that. And then later in the week, they do a press conference with the halftime show people, which I don't care about. But they also do the State of the Union, State of the League, or whatever you want to call it, from Roger Goodell. And you know I'm tuning into that.
Oh gosh, that's gonna be entertaining.
And then they have other such nonsense throughout the week. I think NFL Honors is on Saturday or Friday night. One of the two.
Yeah.
And then
weeknight.
and then you got the Super Bowl obviously on Sunday. So it's a long week. I love to go
Yeah.
and like participate in the long week. But anyway,
Why don't you just take the week off?
just
do it.
go like right now.
Yeah, you gotta go like an hour ago.
I gotta be there like now. We're gonna continue in this episode. We'll do the news and we'll continue our series on consistency for Fantasy Football 2019, and we'll discuss the wide receiver position. And we have one more position to discuss, which we'll finish off next week, which is the tight end position.
The tight end what?
Tight end position.
Okay.
Very boring. Those two
Yeah.
episodes. I know as quarterbacks and tight ends are never listened to. Those episodes.
Quarterbacks, I feel like should be a tight end. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Before we get into the news, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like us on Facebook at, or I didn't even say where you could follow us on Twitter at the FF Champs, on Instagram at the Fantasy Champions, and at Facebook at facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. Subscribe wherever you listen: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Click the bell on YouTube for notifications. Leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Let's get to the news. I did want to point this out before we got the terrible news that Kobe Bryant, NBA legend, passed away this weekend. The NFL reported, I saw it on like Sunday morning, and I guess the NFL and the NFLPA made significant progress on a new CBA.
Oh, there you go.
So much so that there is basically almost no doubt that they're going to play in 2021.
That is very good news.
Yeah, I really don't want to not have football.
I hate lockouts in sports.
Imagine, you know what's going to happen to me? I'm going to get all the way to the fantasy championship next year. I'm going to get in it in our league. I'm going to be lit. I'm going to lose, and then they're going to lock out for an entire year.
That would happen to you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would. There is a commissioner curse forever existent in all fantasy leagues. The commissioner will never win.
Or if you do win, that's when there's like a 10-year lockout. Like the league is just forever. Oh, yeah. The NFL just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
They just shut the whole league down.
That's ridiculous. Are you excited at all for the XFL? It's the week.
I wouldn't really say I'm excited for it.
2 weeks away.
But I will watch it. So I guess maybe a little bit.
There are people who are very amped about XFL fantasy football.
They're okay. Listen,
like, whatever.
If you take, whatever floats your boat, you know. I'm not really going to be spending much of my time playing XFL fantasy, but I mean,
they did.
I get it. Trust me, I get it. I understand.
Fantasy Pros like legit put an AAF tab on their website.
I wonder how much traction that got.
And so much, though. I'm serious.
Really?
Many people were excited about watching football after the NFL season.
How come they got like 50 people watching their games then?
It's because, okay, here's what happens. This is going to happen to the XFL, too, is that the week after the Super Bowl, you get psychopaths like me craving football. And it's like,
after 1
crap,
week.
it's over. I need more football. So you jump in. I watched the entire weekend of AAF football, and I was lit about it, and I was like, this is great. Great. It lasted like 3 weeks, and I didn't even watch week 2.
Yeah, they shut it down after week 3, didn't they?
Yeah, it was after week 3, but I didn't even watch week 2. In like, it was absolutely crazy. So I think the XFL is going to have this
you
large
watched week
spike
1 and then
drop.
Yeah, but I think the XFL is more hype than the AFL.
I mean, they're not direct.
At least for me, I think
they're not drawing direct competition to the NFL.
Right.
But you just can't beat the product.
No. And I get that. But at least the XFL has like, that entertainment value.
Yeah.
That kind of extra, it's like arcade-ish, which might work, might not, but you want to see.
Yeah.
Because I remember the original XFL was like Vince McMahon in the WWE, and it was like it was just like over the top.
I feel like they're trying to. It's not. See, the OG XFL was like WWE. So they said it wasn't like orchestrated, but it probably was. But a lot of it was like there was like extra hype surrounding it, like extra stuff. Like UFC's real, but
everybody was extra.
Yeah, but like UFC is real. But the stuff they do, like in the press conferences, and all that stuff is just faked. It's all acted
not
fake
all
to
of
make it interesting. Not all of it, but to make it a little more interesting for people. You know, they tell them to get a little hostile when they go up to take that picture and they pretend to fight, all this stuff. So it's
fake a swing and
hold me
back.
Yeah. So anyway, it should be interesting because they said they actually want the XFL to be a real thing, like a real sport, like for people to take it seriously. Everything that the NFL does that people don't like, the XFL is doing.
What do you mean?
So people hate the amount of reviews that get called, which they'll probably still review crap, but the amount of reviews, the fact that people are calling the game soft because you can't hit players anymore. All kinds of, they're basically putting it back into the old way of football, but adding things that fans want. So
I know they're not
going to be very
high
powered offense, all kinds of stuff. It's just going to be very catered.
So is it going to be more aggressive then?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Like they said,
that's probably not good for their product, but good at the same time.
They said they care only about what the fans think of the game. So
which is how it should be if you're trying to
like what I would assume is that players don't matter, player injuries don't matter to them.
See, that's going to be a
problem in like a couple of years. Yeah.
But initially,
that the people look at the NFL like it's this like amazing product and this amazing thing because they take care of their players. Meanwhile, the people in the XFL are just completely concussed for
I know.
weeks. I don't know much about it, so I don't know if there's like
I know
injury
there's
protocols
some
and
there's
all
some
kinds of stuff.
players that I actually recognized.
Yeah,
Like old quarterback prospects and stuff.
There's somebody that he probably will be one of the best wide receivers in the XFL, to be honest with you. But the Browns like fifth string wide receiver, who was suspended.
Antonio Galloway? No.
Yeah, Antonio Galloway.
Oh yeah.
He's or Galladay or whatever the hell his name
I
is.
don't know yet.
But anyway, so he
signed a deal.
He's suspended by the NFL right now. So
No, there's some like guys who were like former like second or third round picks.
Yeah.
Not even too long ago that like just didn't.
I don't know if we talked about this last week, but I know we talked about this in the past. I'm curious to see how they do their whole drafting process because you have to re-supplement the league with players.
Yeah.
And the NFL is going to take all of the good talent, obviously, because that's where everyone wants to be. But
do you think if you go undrafted though and no team signs you,
then
the XFL be a good
draft?
Well, no. Like if you're a player,
Can't be a free for all.
If you're a player, you played your 4 years of college, so you're done.
Yeah.
You declare for the NFL draft. You don't get drafted. No team signs you in training camp, and you sit out the whole year. But you're still like working, obviously.
Yeah.
In your own time. Would you sign with the XFL if they offered you a job?
Well, yeah.
Right, and like
because I think there.
That's why I think the NFL needs this to work. I think
the XFL, if the
doesn't
XFL
need it, but it would really help.
Is successful. We're a fantasy football podcast, by the way. If the XFL is successful, then I would think that the NFL would use it to recruit players.
That's what I'm saying.
XFL
that's where I'm kind of getting.
So there's probably like hooks and contracts where you can't leave after certain amounts of time, like the
you can't leave.
The AAF
you can't just break the contract and say, "Oh, I'm going to the NFL."
Wanted to be the D League of the NFL, like that's what it wanted to be. Obviously, it went broke in the NFL. Like, if the NFL funded the AAF, it probably would have worked. But they just were like, "Screw this company. I don't want none of that."
Yeah.
Like the NFL wants to. I think they want to create their own like D League kind of thing, but they want to do it at their own pace.
Which is, I don't know if they ever will.
But I don't. The XFL is like, we want to take down the NFL. Like that's their goal.
Well, that's not going to work.
No,
that's just not. That's just straight.
Never going to happen. My question is, how long before the NFL just buys the XFL altogether?
Oh, if it starts working, probably not long.
No, they'll be like, how much you want? We make $9 billion a year.
Yeah,
$4 billion. All right, fine. Product takes a deep dive. Anyway, all right, let's talk about some real news. Dolphins GM Chris Greer fully expects Ryan Fitzmagic to be back in 2020. So he's going to come back, and the assumption is that he's going to play for the Dolphins.
That is interesting.
Is this a good or bad thing for Devontae Parker?
Well, for him, probably good, but I don't know if this means he's going to start. I think this means they're going to draft a young quarterback, get rid of Rosen. He's done. But have that young quarterback and Fitzpatrick compete, probably Tua.
I feel like their whole organization right now is kind of a disaster.
It feels like it. I figured Miami was going to make a play at like Brady, Breeze, or Philip Rivers.
No, I know, but this is like, Brady, he wants to go to a winner. Philip Rivers probably wants to go to a winner. Like
Philip Rivers, I think, just wants to go wherever.
He wants to go wherever they can.
Yeah, whoever will give him a contract.
But for me, I think the reality for the older quarterbacks around the league, and who are free agents, I should say, their idea is to find a location that fits them perfectly and then go with it. And I just don't think Miami's that spot. Like, what makes you think that a quarterback is going to change the tide of Miami?
Oh no, I don't think it would. Not with that.
Like
roster.
They might win 7 games next year, but they still won't make the playoffs, and they'll be trash.
If they had Patrick Mahomes on the Dolphins, I think they'd be a wild card team.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like they'd be the Titans, maybe.
Yeah, they'd probably make the playoffs, maybe win a game if they're lucky.
But I just don't. I don't see them. They're going to draft Tua.
Yeah,
and Fitzmagic will probably start. And
Tua, especially if he's still they can use his injury as like an excuse to have him sit.
Do believe in Rosen?
No, they don't. Or else they would have played him.
Falcons GM Thomas Dimitroff said the contract negotiations with Austin Hooper are trudging along, which is good news. Eli Manning announces retirement from the NFL after 16 seasons. Golf clap for Eli.
Clap, even though I thought
he's been such a meme for a long time. Poor guy. Finally can get a little bit of respect after taking down.
See, now that he's retired, I respect him more.
Yeah, when he was playing, everyone was like, "He blows."
Well, that was
I'm
me.
like, poor guy.
I absolutely.
Like
I thought Eli Manning.
Guy's getting absolutely friggin' toasted.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
You took down the GOAT twice. I think so, but I don't have a large.
It's debatable.
It is. He's gonna be. He won't be. Obviously, won't
He'll
be.
get in.
He'll get in. But it'll probably take like 7 tries.
Yeah, but he'll be in. He's
Like
Eli Manning.
he'll be like 75 years old giving a speech, and they like finally put him in the Hall of Fame. Like that's kind of what it is. There are guys that still get elected to the Hall of Fame to this day that played in like the 60s, and they were like just 10 times in a row put on the. So he'll get in eventually. I think it's like, can you? What they usually ask is, can you write the history of the NFL without this player? And who's the greatest quarterback of all time?
Tom Brady.
Can you write the history of Tom Brady without Eli Manning?
No.
So I think Eli Manning should.
See, that's not how I look at it, though. That's a good way of looking at it, though. I just
came up with that right now.
Oh, really?
that was quick.
Oh, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Typically, if I look at a Hall of Fame player, it's
Not that Tom Brady is the NFL, but
like when I looked back at the generation, the decade, was he one of the guys that drove the decade? And I don't know if Eli Manning was. Like, was he one of the best players in the Peyton? Yes. Tom Brady? Yes.
Yeah, I was going to
I
say
think Drew Brees? Yes. Aaron Rodgers? Yes.
I mean, you could.
Is Eli Manning in that
Was he a
category?
top 5 quarterback in the NFL? Over
I don't
the
know.
course?
I really don't.
See, I really.
If he was like fifth for like 1 year.
Give it 3 years.
Yeah, he was top 10.
Give it like 3 years. Just think back to those.
Yeah,
The big problem was that he won his Super Bowls in 2008 and was it
2011 or something?
Yeah, 2011. So, like, that was a very long time ago from now, and he's been bad for quite some time. So,
No, I know.
I feel like a lot of people are just like,
I think give it time.
we'll figure
It's
it out.
debatable.
I don't want to talk a lot about Antonio Brown. We talk about him every week.
No, I really don't.
But he was a warrant was put out for his arrest for felony burglary, and then battery charges. And he turned himself in and paid $110,000. What is it called? Bailout.
Yeah, bailout.
Oh, Antonio.
Sheesh, man.
He's a clown. He's not going to play in the NFL again. I agree with you now. I'm done. I can't do this guy anymore. His agent dropped him. Apparently, this is actually good news for him. And I think NFL teams might take notice of this. Antonio Brown is now from the state, like the government or whatever state he lives in is saying you have to take, in order, like a part of your bailout, he has to wear like a device
Really?
on his ankle or something like that, I think. And he also he's required by the government now to take mental health tests and like work on his mental health, which is good.
Yeah.
No one's holding him accountable anymore, so he probably needs it.
Is mandatory.
The Ian Rappaport is reporting that the Vikings assistant head coach and / offensive advisor, Gary Kubiak, is just going to slide right into that offensive coordinator role. So if you were worried about Dalvin Cook, you should be okay now.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with Gary Kubiak, but quick news that is not in the news that I just remembered.
Breaking news.
Okay, you just want an excuse to.
I really did.
I don't. You probably already heard it, and you probably
It wasn't even
didn't
loud
even
enough,
put
so
it in the
I'm
news because
disappointed.
it wasn't even that big of a deal. But since we're on the topic of coaches, Freddie Kitchens did get hired.
Oh,
you didn't hear this?
I did not. Where did he get hired? Oh no.
Tight ends coach for the Giants. He's not even. He doesn't even get a coordinator job. He's a tight ends coach now. He went from head coach to tight ends coach. Yeah. Yep.
I think he was brought up too fast. Because what was he before he was the offensive coordinator? Because they fired the Hugh Jackson, and they fired the offensive coordinator at the same time as when they fired Hugh Jackson. So then they brought in, I can't remember who their defensive coordinator was last year, but Freddie Kitchens ended up being the offensive coordinator for the rest of the season.
He used to be okay. So Freddie Kitchens was a tight ends coach for the Cowboys, tight ends coach for the Cardinals, running backs coach in college, running backs coach for the Cardinals, and then in 2017 he was a running backs coach. Then became the assistant head coach and a running backs coach in 2018. Offensive coordinator the same year, 2018.
Yeah, so it makes sense that
next year head coach.
He didn't have enough experience, and it makes sense that he would go back to tight ends coach.
Yeah,
or whatever they give him.
If the Giants do really well, I think you could see him getting another offensive coordinator job. somewhere. But
According to I don't even know who this is according to, but a pending free agent wide receiver, Amari Cooper reiterated he wants to play for the Cowboys for a long time. So we'll see what happens there. Speaking on his upcoming free agency, Drew Brees confirmed he has no plans to leave New Orleans. So that's news.
yeah, that is big news because a lot of people thought
he said he's going to take a month or so to decide if he's going to continue playing in the NFL or not. So if he plays, he's going back to New Orleans. If he doesn't play, that might be honestly part of his decision might be whether or not New Orleans wants him back.
Yeah. No, I mean it's Scott Zolak, who is a local Patriots play-by-play guy. He did make a valid point.
Yeah.
I just got my headphones mixed up with my mic, and this is kind of annoying.
Yeah, hurry it up.
Anyway, he made a valid point when talking about Drew Brees. You know, he said that Drew Brees is playing in the Pro Bowl this week. Mm-hmm. What other veteran quarterback plays in the Pro Bowl? Right?
Yeah. Tom Brady last year.
Did he play in the Pro Bowl?
He didn't play in the Pro Bowl because of the Super Bowl, but
right. But most quarterbacks, most veteran guys don't play in the Pro Bowl.
Oh yeah, I got you.
He played in the Pro Bowl. Why did he play in the Pro Bowl? Unless it's going to be
his ride.
Right. And then he was also asked a question about something about him playing in the Pro Bowl, and he's like, "Oh, I just want to be out there with the guys," and he kept saying like, "Play the opportunity to play with these guys." Why would you be saying that if you're going to play with these guys next year?
Well, maybe it's just the talent.
Yeah, but he's been in the Pro Bowl for.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. You could be right, but I don't. I feel like this is it for Brees. I think he's retiring. Yeah,
me too.
Especially because I didn't think he was returning to the Saints. And now after him saying that, just makes me think he's going to retire.
So
and then, sorry, I keep cutting you off, but Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
The Saints are reportedly view him as a franchise quarterback.
Taysom Hill?
Yes. Yep. I know. I said the same thing.
So what are they going to do with Bridgewater?
They're letting him go too.
Oh, they're idiots. Oh, come on, New Orleans. You can't be that stupid. Oh, boy.
I'm going to see the Taysom Hill report.
Do you know what's going to happen?
That goes from Schefter.
What division are they in? They're in the same division as Carolina?
Yes.
Teddy Bridgewater is going to go play with the Carolina Panthers and make them regret it for years.
That would actually be kind of funny.
They just like, Taysom Hill's our future. He's our future, guys. The guy that plays tight end.
Yes, NBC Sports said Saint.
Oh, no.
New Orleans Saints believe Taysom Hill is a franchise quarterback. Saints want to keep Taysom Hill as Drew Brees' heir apparent.
That's so stupid. So what if Brees doesn't come back?
Then it's Taysom Hill. It's his job.
Wow, that's so stupid.
I don't think Bridgewater's playing for the Saints.
So, Robert, in case you had any questions about Tom Brady coming back to New England, we still don't have any answers on Tom Brady's side. But we do know that the New England Patriots plan to bring him back. So we don't have any questions. There was a question in my head of whether or not Bill would be like, all right, let's let him go. Let's move on.
There was there was a Chargers reporter. I don't even know if he had a blue check mark, so take this with your grain of salt. But he on Twitter he was saying that the Chargers let Philip Rivers go because their number one priority is Tom Brady. And they're gonna do everything that they possibly can to get him in LA.
Good freaking luck, guys. Man, with that.
And guess who the Patriots play this year? The Chargers.
To add to that, Joe Montana had some advice for Tommy Brady.
I did see this.
Yeah, he said that you should just don't leave New England. Don't do it. Sounds like he regretted leaving the 49ers.
I know. He said if you don't have to, don't go anyway.
Yeah, there's no need to. I think Brady just wants to test free agency, see what it's like, Man, I think honestly, he wants to see how much people might pay him, just to feel good about himself, and then leave. And be like, and then just to show to the rest of the teams, like the rest of the quarterbacks in the league who think they're better than him, that he's like, oh, this is what people are willing to pay me.
Chargers are going to give me $30 million.
Yeah, they could give me $30 million a year. Screw you, Mahomes.
And it also,
I'm not saying that
the Chargers.
That is
I think that
that's
Chargers report is true, by the way, because they're also moving to a new stadium. And you know what NFL teams would do?
I think it's stupid for them to do that. Just move on.
No, I agree.
Like, there's other quarterbacks out there. Well, just reset.
See, what the Chargers,
Like, make a push for Bridgewater.
that's
make a
their
push
problem.
For Winston,
Is they don't want to
else.
reset because they think their roster is already really, really good.
Yeah, but Hunter Henry's a free agent. Keenan Allen's a free agent. Melvin
Is
Gordon.
Keenan Allen?
I don't
a free
think
agent?
Keenan Allen's a free
Melvin
agent.
Gordon and Hunter Henry are.
Melvin Gordon's not going to resign. They're not going to give him the money. Hunter Henry, they might try to bring back. But I just think their whole roster is about to completely collapse. And unless Brady goes there and
You
says,
still have Joey Bosa.
you need to
and they still
resign
have-
all of your talent for me to come there. And then
I
they
know,
go,
that's-
and then
would be-
New England
if they-
signs Hunter Henry before Brady makes his decision. And then
Wow.
LA's like, what do we do now?
There was somebody else on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm just ranting at this point, but they said that like if they get Tom Brady, they're gonna trade for Gronk too. The Chargers.
I mean, TBH, I like it. I mean, not Gronk. I don't care about the Gronk thing. I actually, if they told Brady that they would trade for Gronk, and Brady said to Gronk, "Hey, want to come play with LA?"
In LA.
Yeah,
It doesn't make sense
and Gronk
anywhere else
says
but
yes, because Brady's not going to LA unless Gronk says yes. I honestly think they can make as hard a push as they want for Brady.
New stadium, LA.
I don't think he's going to the.
I don't think he's going anywhere, but if he
They just bought a house in Connecticut.
I know.
For him to.
if you put a gun to your head,
Like, why would he buy it? Who wants to live
Tom
in
Brady? And I
Connecticut?
told you Tom Brady is not going to be a Patriot next year, and he's not going to retire. What team is he playing for?
Los Angeles.
I would also probably say Los Angeles.
But I just don't think he's going to leave.
I don't either.
The situation doesn't make sense in LA. Their defense is okay.
I just don't see him. I honestly
Like, if they bring all the talent back and put Brady there, they
then
might be able to win.
Yeah, you can make
Like,
him.
the thought process that they have is right. That Phillip Rivers couldn't get the job done, but Brady can.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and they don't have a bad thought process.
And
process
they
there.
view their window as not like it's a 2 to 3 year window for
Now,
them.
do you think they have any kind of like insight as to, like, they've talked to Brady a little bit, and they're like, not as like we're recruiting him, but in a way of
Yeah.
like, would you be interested in?
maybe
coming to
they've
the
had like
Chargers?
one of their players like as
Contact
jokingly like, haha, don't you want to play for the
I'm
Chargers?
just trying to think,
Haha.
like, is this a report that they're going to push after Tom Brady? Because for me, you're like,
we knew that already though.
if I'm the
So-
Chargers and you're like your organization's just getting done with an old quarterback, why go out and sign another old quarterback when half your offense is going into free agency?
yeah,
Like, that makes no sense to me.
because they just again they think they have a good enough roster if they can.
Yeah. See,
Other-
I would
they
go
pro-
out. I would make my priority getting like Bridgewater, or I know people don't like him, but Winston, or somebody that is young that you can cultivate
Yeah,
and make into a.
but again they don't
quarterback.
want they think they have a short window with this team.
Brady's not winning a Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm sorry.
They get everybody back. I don't know.
Anyway, well, it's New England against Los Angeles at this point, so we'll see who wins the battle.
Yeah.
Green Bay Press Gazette expects the Packers to release Jimmy Graham. Will Fuller underwent sports hernia surgery. Jay Glazer reports that the Chargers have moved on from Phil Rivers,
Which we talked about, yeah.
which you mentioned a second ago. And in a final piece of news, in a police video of Kareem Hunt's January 21st traffic stop obtained by TMZ Sports. TMZ Sports must be, this is a side note, Kareem Hunt must hate these people right now.
I think a
They've
lot
ruined
of people.
his life twice.
But yeah,
It's like everything they report, it's bad about Kareem Hunt. Hunt admitted that he would fail an NFL drug test if one were administered to him at the time. That was when he was pulled over and he was high at a traffic stop. So, interesting. The NFL is not going to suspend him for a drug test failure because they can't, because he hasn't failed a drug test yet. But you are a clown, Kareem Hunt. I love you, but you got to get your life together, kid. So let's get right into consistency wide receivers part 1. We had just spent way too much time on the news because of Ricky's long list of news reports.
I usually don't bring in the news. I had it this week. Had to show.
He's
it
like,
off.
I had to show that I actually can perform here. So let's talk about wide receiver number 1, Michael Thomas. I wanted to preface this whole conversation before we get into Michael Thomas by saying it is highly interesting that, so this year I just felt like everything, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, literally everyone in fantasy was inconsistent.
Yes.
I've kind of gotten to that conclusion by doing these shows. Everyone was very inconsistent. Unless you had Mike Thomas, Christian McCaffrey, and Lamar Jackson, you didn't have anything super consistent at any position. Now, there were certain guys that were consistent. Like for wide receivers, there are so many good ones that being a wide receiver 2 has value in a league.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people that are going to ride with, a guy like somebody in our league did this all year, and I assume that that's the case. We'll talk about him in like 4 wide receivers. He was the wide receiver 4, Cooper Kupp, had a 43.75% wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 percentage, which means he was wide receiver 3 or worse most of the time. And people were riding with that. But then you got the situation of, that like there are wide receivers that were consistent as wide receiver 2s. Maybe they didn't give you those wide receiver 1 performances, but they gave you good enough performances to help you win every week.
Right.
So it was just a weird year, and it's starting to make me think, like, how do you dissect the wide receiver position? Because running backs are running backs. Like, they get hurt, they're all over the road. Like, you can't stream running backs, you can't do any of that.
No.
But you couldn't stream running backs and wide receivers for a long time, but they're starting to become a reality that if you get yourself one big-time wide receiver, like a Michael Thomas or a Devontae Adams, or
you can find the number 2 receiver.
You can find the number 2 receiver, maybe just by streaming it, which is
I wouldn't go as far to say streaming it.
Yeah,
but it's much easier to find a good receiver than a good running back.
Yeah,
I'd say.
So anyway, Michael Thomas was literally probably the only one consistent. The man closest to him in this 2-episode series we're going to talk about is, like, I would say
consistency
21 points, 21 percentage points.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Off Michael Thomas's wide receiver 1 / wide receiver 2 percentage. He had 11 wide receiver 1 finishes, 3 wide receiver 2 finishes, and I believe he played all 16 games. So in 2 games, he finished outside of, I think it was the top 30 twice, which obviously happened earlier in the season. I think week 17, he didn't even play that much, I don't believe.
What was it, week 17?
Yeah, I don't remember, but that was his other bad game.
I don't think he did, yeah.
So it was like week 2 and week 17. So it was like, generally speaking, Michael Thomas, 68% of the time he's a wide receiver 1. 68%.
That alone is ridiculous.
He was like a wide receiver 2. First 4 weeks of the season, it was like 1 week as a wide receiver 1. And then after like week 4, he was a wide receiver 1 for most of the season. That was the start of the stretch.
He had like games. 5 or 6 straight weeks where he had 20 plus.
So he ended the season averaging about 18 points per game. Obviously, I think at this point, and I hate to do this because I know next year Mike Thomas and Christian McCaffrey and Lamar Jackson are not going to end up as the QB1, running back 1, and wide receiver 1. I just know it's going to happen. But now we're forced to rank them as such. So where do you draft
You're an idiot
Michael
if
Thomas?
You don't rank those guys there. Where do I draft him?
Yeah.
He's probably going to go like 4 or 5.
Now, do you think... I'm going to consider this in my ranking of
Who's
him
the
this
quarterback?
year. Who's the quarterback?
If it's Taysom Hill, which we were talking about earlier, of him being the Saints believe he's the guy, and in all likelihood, the way it's going right now, it's still very, very early in the offseason, and Breeze hasn't made his decision.
Right.
But the way it's looking right now is Taysom Hill's going to be the quarterback of that team.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing for Michael Thomas?
No.
I would not want to draft Michael Thomas.
I'm not ranking him 1. I'm ranking him 1.
If Taysom Hill's a quarterback.
If Taysom Hill's a quarterback, I'm taking him down. Like, I'm probably going to move him like 3-4. And that seems like a little bit... Like, people will be like, oh, why did you... Do you really think he's going to get targeted 170 times?
It's going to be a different offense.
Yeah, and so that's the problem with Michael Thomas. And I think everyone's going to draft him like he is.
He should still be drafted high.
Questions of how he plays. Obviously, he's consistent. With a good quarterback, he's very consistent. You thought when Drew Brees went out that he would maybe get worse, and everyone was like, okay, sell him now, or what I mean, or whatever you want to do with him. And everyone was kind of nervous about Michael Thomas. It didn't even affect him. So obviously, I think Teddy Bridgewater was actually a decent quarterback.
I think if Bridgewater is the Saints quarterback, then I would say I really wouldn't say there's any difference between him and Breeze.
Yeah, but if Taysom
Michael
Hill is the
Thomas's
starting
sake.
quarterback of the New Orleans Saints,
then I think you
you
drop
gotta
Michael
knock-
Thomas a
yeah.
few spots.
I don't
Still
even
in the top 5, but
I'd like to see
among
the
receivers.
reaction to a lot of that.
yeah, I
But anyway,
mean,
he's arguably the most.
maybe people overreact and say, "Oh, I wouldn't even take him in the first 3 rounds."
He's the best fantasy wide receiver out there right
Yes, yeah, undebatable.
now. Chris Godwin comes in at number 2. He was a stellar buy for me. Got him in the 6th round.
Yeah.
And he finished as the wide receiver 2. I was shocked to find out his wide receiver 1 percentage, though. And I probably shouldn't have been because Mike Evans was equally as bad. He had a 35.71 wide receiver 1 percentage.
Which is not. No, I mean, it's good, but not what you would expect from
The
the
funny
number 2
part is
receiver
when
in
you look
fantasy.
at the rest of the list, there's not a guy that like exceeds
No.
38.
I think there's
38%.
3 guys.
I mean, 40. I'm sorry, 40%.
There's 3 guys that I think have 40%.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so it's like 35% is not even bad for Chris Godwin. And then his wide receiver 2 percentage was 21%. Wide receiver 1 and 2, 57% of the time. So he was consistently good at getting you wide receiver 2 performances with the off chance that he hits an explosion game.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the good part about Chris Godwin.
Godwin, I mean, he never really had a game under like 7. So that's why his percentages probably aren't that high because he did have his bad weeks were like 7 or 8 points, which was probably like wide receiver 3 numbers.
Right.
So it wouldn't count as a wide receiver 1 or number 2.
Right.
But a bad week for a guy getting 8 points isn't the worst.
Yeah, I still would. You're almost. It's hard because I really don't trust him next year to do this again.
I mean, again,
obviously.
he's another guy. Who's the quarterback?
Yeah.
It's probably not Winston. Is it Phillip Rivers?
Oh, if he doesn't have a quarterback, then
Is it Andy Dalton?
If it's Rivers, then I'm okay with Chris Godwin.
Is it? Yeah.
But I don't. You know what I mean? Even Andy Dalton, maybe.
See, I don't. I even would
It's
rather.
just they're so like to me. My question is the like when Jameis Winston was playing, if they don't bring Winston back and they don't play him next year, you know what I mean? And he's not the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right?
Yep.
He was throwing it to Godwin and Mike Evans like 80% of the time.
No, I know.
It was ridiculous.
That's why you said
is
like, even
another
if,
quarterback going to come in and do that?
that's why
like
when
even if he throws it
when you said
51
like
times
Phillip
in percentage
Rivers, like
offense.
I don't even. I would not be that comfortable taking.
We've seen Arians though take old men quarterbacks.
It's not even the fact that he might do okay in Tampa Bay.
I don't think he's going to be a good fantasy option. I'm just
Phillip
saying.
Rivers'
I think
style of play is dump offs. It's short throws. Short throws would be good for Godwin, but like
Godwin's a slot, so yeah, that would
yeah, but like
definitely
but
help
like he likes to use running backs.
I
He
like
likes to
Chris
use-
Godwin.
He likes to use tight ends, which Winston
know,
doesn't.
I
Like
know.
it's like a lot of.
I actually like. See, here's what I equivalate.
I don't
that to.
even think he'll throw it as
Chris
much as
Godwin
Winston.
is similar to Keenan Allen, so he's not going to finish as the wide receiver 2 next year. If like a guy like Phillip
Maybe
Rivers
a low end
signs,
wide receiver. One,
I
though.
think he could finish in the same area as Keenan Allen more consistently. But the big thing is that what happens to Mike Evans, and I honestly think Mike
I don't
Williams
know.
happens to Mike Evans,
Oh,
and that's terrible. And a lot of people are going to draft him, and he's going to bust his pants off. And,
what a waste!
yeah. Anyway, so Chris Godwin being the number 2, I don't expect it to happen again. I think he's a low end wide receiver 1. I'm curious to see where I end up with him in my rankings as we approach
We're gonna
that
have
point
to.
in the offseason. But number 3 on this list, Julio Jones, started off the season very poor.
I don't know how he ended up with
And
number
then
3.
he
oh, I
finished
know
as
why.
the wide receiver 3. He's like, yeah, I know why. He had 40% of the time, more than Chris Godwin as a wide receiver 1, and then only 13% of the time as a wide receiver 2. 53% of the time he finishes wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, which means 47% of the time he's hurting you.
Yeah,
Generally speaking.
Julio had like the second to last week of the season. I think he had 40.
Yeah.
If you would have taken that game out, he probably would have been like wide receiver 8 or 9.
Now, here's my question with Julio. Calvin Ridley, who we'll talk about on the next episode.
Who was not in that game, by the way, nor was
Right.
Austin Hooper, I believe.
Right. Calvin Ridley, who played, I believe it was, how many games? 12?
He was like,
Something
yeah, it wasn't a lot. It was like 12 or
that.
13.
So he was a wide receiver 25, but he was very good when he was playing.
Yeah.
Do you think that Julio Jones is now going to start? What you saw earlier in the season is the new Julio Jones.
I think so.
So we can start moving him down draft boards.
I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
My concern is like,
And I'm a guy that watches a lot of Falcons games.
Do you think that
he's a big Julio fan? But
do you think that if Julio is low enough, like 4th round, 3rd round maybe, I don't think he's going to get drafted. I think people will overdraft him and he'll end up in the 2nd round. But do you think a guy like Julio Jones, if ending up in the 3rd, 4th round, is a valuable asset?
I would draft him late 3rd. In the 4th, but other than that, I don't
want to see. And a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, it's Julio Jones. He's ranked in the top 5. You have to, like this is what are you talking about?
Yeah,
he can't get drafted in the 3rd round. I understand that. We're talking about where we think he should be drafted, and
I would say like
I would be
4th round.
comfortable with taking him. At this point, I'm not comfortable with taking Julio Jones unless it's in the 3rd or 4th round because of the Calvin Ridley effect. And I mean, if Hooper's not there, then I think Julio obviously gets more targets.
I mean, Julio's also going to be 31 years old.
That's what I'm saying. He's an old man.
And like 31, you think, oh, that's like prime of his career. But for a wide receiver, they start going down at like 29, 28.
Yep, right. So it is concerning with Julio. I don't want to call him a bust candidate for next year because I still think he's good.
Oh, that's why I said I would still draft him late 3rd or like 4th round.
I don't believe whatsoever that he's going to be that top 5 quarterback that people might draft him as this year. Wide receiver, sorry.
I mean, he could be a top 5 quarterback. Who knows?
Who knows? Cooper Kupp comes in at number 4. This is shocking and disgusting. And I said his numbers already, 43.75% of the time he was a wide receiver 1 or 2, 12% of the time wide receiver 2, 31% of the time wide receiver 1. He really wasn't that good.
He was good, but only like the first 6 weeks of the season.
Yes, and then after that, he completely collapsed. Now, people rode him so hard to the point where, like, I remember after the first couple weeks of the year, I was looking for a wide receiver 2, and I'm like, okay, I gotta figure out this wide receiver 2 situation. And so I went and I looked at Cooper Kupp's numbers, and I was like, ooh. And then I saw that people started ranking him as the wide receiver 3, and he had an easy schedule, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So then I almost bought him, overpaid for him, like significantly overpaid for him. And the guy said no because the guy in our league is like, obsessed with
big Cooper
Kupp guy. So he said no, and I was like, all right, whatever. And then I watched as the season went along, and I'm like, thank God.
I almost did the same thing. He was the guy who, going into draft night was my plan A.
Yeah.
Actually, to draft in like, what was it, the 5th or 6th round, whatever it was.
Right.
And then he got drafted one spot before my pick. That's just how it works. But all year I wanted Cooper Kupp because of that.
Yeah.
And I tried trading for him and all that stuff. Nothing. And then after like week 6 or 7, I was like, or after like week 8, I was like, man, just like you, I was like, I'm really glad I didn't pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, it's true. He was a guy that I think, because I look at ECR rankings and I look at my own rankings as the weeks go along, and I sit there and I go, okay, is this a guy that I can actually rely on and trust in? And like the target share was massive early in the season.
Yeah.
And then as the season went along, for some reason it just started.
Well,
he missed games.
They threw the ball less.
He missed games. They threw the ball less. It just wasn't.
They used the tight ends more for some reason for the first time in like the history of the Rams.
As far as next year is concerned, I like him as a Julian Edelman like guy. But I don't think Cooper Kupp's going to finish as like, I think the weirdness at the wide receiver position this year and the amount of inconsistent play that there was and the amount of injuries there were at the wide receiver position allowed guys like Godwin and Cooper Kupp to finish in the top 5, which you don't expect. Like in the beginning of the draft season, when, in August, if you told me Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, and DeAndre Hopkins would finish in the top 5, I would be like, oh, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And then you were to tell me Cooper Kupp and Chris Godwin would be there, I'd be like, what the crap happened to Devontae Adams? You know what I mean? So it's like Godwin.
Where's Juju and Odell?
Right. So like for me, Godwin and Kupp are not bad wide receivers. I just think their style of play, like slot receivers don't finish this high most of the time.
Yeah, typically they don't.
Yeah, so I would think Godwin and Kupp are going to end up like I would actually probably rank them outside of the top 6 for next year.
Yeah,
unfortunately. But we'll have to see as things go along because there are different guys that are coming in. Number 5, DeAndre Hopkins, my dude. 40% of the time he's wide receiver 1, 26.26% of the time he's a wide receiver 2, and 66% of the time he's wide receiver 1 or 2. So he was consistent. He was one of the closest guys. I think he was second on this list in consistency.
And I think he was probably this. I mean, I'd probably say he was the 3rd best wide receiver in fantasy.
If you take away, and I want to do those numbers because he was early in the season. It was a struggle. I'm going to say that right now.
If you drafted him 5th or 6th, you probably would say
early
he's a
in
bust.
the season. I snagged him at a low value because he was having bad games. And then he started playing like Hopkins again.
Right.
I just wanted to pull up. Give your thoughts on Hopkins.
I think, like I said, I think if you drafted him like 5th or 6th, you probably have the mindset that he's a bust. And he kind of was, looking back on it, a little bit of a bust, I guess, considering where he was drafted and what the expectation was for him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was very consistent, considering, like you said, he was probably second on that list behind Michael Thomas consistency-wise. And, yeah, he did get off to a slow start, like you said, but he did continue to get better each week and ended up being a decent option. He finished 5th, but I honestly think he was probably the 3rd best wide receiver in fantasy. Which, again, not what you expected or hoped for if you drafted him that high, but he's still pretty good.
Yeah. So he was, from week, I think, 7 on, he was the wide receiver 3.
Which is, I think,
So, which is kind of where he finished, wide receiver 3 to 5. So, I think for me, obviously we see him as the second most consistent wide receiver. He's one of the best wide receivers in that offense. Or he's the best wide receiver in that offense. My problem is the fact that they have a lot of good receivers and that it's going to spread the ball around. So, for me, I actually think, like, to me at this point, it would be Michael Thomas and then DeAndre Hopkins, 1 and 2 is probably what I would say, and then maybe Adams 3.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about number 6. Kenny Golladay. We predicted the Kenny Golladay breakout into the wide receiver 1 category. He was a wide receiver 1/2, 56% of the time. Only finished as a wide receiver 1, 37% of the time. And he was a wide receiver 2, 18% of the time. So a little bit inconsistent at times. It really depended on what week. Like there was if what's his name? Who's the second
Marvin
wide receiver?
Jones.
If Marvin Jones is not in Detroit and he's very far away, I think that Kenny Golladay is a good wide receiver 1 to look forward to. And
especially with another full year Matt Stafford.
The concerning factor is that Kenny Golladay had to share time and passes with, and he had to deal half the season without Matthew Stafford. So he had to share time with what's his name? Oh my God, I already forgot it.
Who? Marvin Jones.
Yeah, Marvin Jones. Thank you.
Sheesh.
Wow, that was totally bad. But anyway, so I like Kenny Golladay. Do you see there being an improvement in his game at all from this year to the next year? Or do you think he's going to take a step back?
I think maybe a full season Matt Stafford will help.
Right.
I don't know if he's going to take a big step back.
Yeah.
I just never trust the Lions. But where did he finish? 6th?
Right. Yes.
I could see him finishing like 6th.
He was targeted 116 times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't like in the list of this is the top 6 guys. Thomas had 185 targets. Godwin had 121. Julio had 157. Cooper Kupp had 134. And then Hopkins had 150. Kenny Golladay had 116. So if he gets up to that 150 that a lot of these guys in the top 5 were, I definitely think that Kenny Golladay could be a wide receiver 1, of like a high-end wide receiver 1 next year. It's a matter of, is Marvin Jones there? Is Matt Stafford there? Are these guys going to, help him get to that point of 150 targets?
Right, yeah.
I don't think that's going to be the case, especially with Carry-On coming back and all of those assets coming together. I still think he's a low-end wide receiver 1, but it's kind of tough for me. I got to see the offseason play out, see what they do, and see what happens in the future. Number 7 on our list is Devontae Parker. Shocking.
Yeah, this is,
Early part of the season, didn't expect to have this guy as a wide receiver 1.
I didn't want him. He was a Dolphin.
No, you spent every single week. We brought him up on the waiver show. You were like, nope, don't want him. Stay away. And I'd bring him up and you'd be like, nope, don't want anything to do with him. Nope.
They were 0-8 and scoring like 3 points a game as a team.
I know.
And he was getting like 6 catches for 60 yards.
For me, but I kept on telling you. He was getting targeted. He's the only option in that offense. Like, it's gross, but do it. He ended up as the wide receiver 7, had a wide receiver 1.
He also finished, like, second half of the year, he was even better Like I'm curious to see like what he.
Let me pull it up for you.
Yeah, because from like when they started winning games and they fully committed to Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I don't know what week that was, but I'm just going to do 8-17. Devontae Parker, number 2 in fantasy.
Yep.
Half the season.
That's what I'm saying.
Kenny Galladay was number 3, by the way.
Sheesh.
If you wanted to have those numbers. So, I mean, Parker, everyone had talked about Devontae Parker. I just threw my hands up like Bernie Sanders. I was like, everybody wanting to talk about Devontae Parker. I will give you free healthcare. So everyone talked about Devontae Parker during the offseason. He has these really big weeks, and everyone's like, oh, did you see this catching OTAs? And he wins the offseason every year. And then it gets to the regular season. He disappears, and he's nothing. Yeah. And then this year, I started to see it, and I'm like, nah, this ain't real. This ain't real. It took me a while to get to the point where I was like, okay, maybe I'll pick him up.
I was even longer than you.
What pissed me off is that I didn't even pick him up. I was so against picking him up that I didn't pick him up. I kept on telling you guys to pick him up. I didn't even pick him up myself. And he was on our waiver wire for quite a while.
Yeah, a long time.
So I'm like, that second half of the season, you could have had a wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Wow. Or wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
For free.
Yep.
Weird stuff. I feel mentally violated by that. Now, okay, let's ask the question. Fitzmagic returns. The magic of Fitzmagic returns.
And if he plays...
Do you like Devontae Parker?
I think he's going to be a low-end wide receiver 1.
Okay.
If Fitzpatrick plays.
I could see him just completely disappearing. What about Tua? They have Tua and they draft him.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Okay. All right. Number 8, Keenan Allen. Season of ups. Wide receiver 1 for the first 3 games. Yeah. And then a season of downs. Went on 8 straight weeks of sucking.
Going into week 4, he was...
I was so shocked.
Rest of the season wide receiver number 1, wasn't he?
Yep.
Ugh. His rankings were...
Yeah. He got targeted 100 times in the first 3 games. I'm shocked to see that Keenan Allen finished this. When I looked at this at the end of the season, I was like, Keenan Allen finishes the wide receiver 8? What the crap happened? How did this even happen? Because he was so bad over the course. 25% of the time wide receiver 1, 25% of the time wide receiver 2, 50% of the time he was either one of those things, and 50% of the time he busted your games right and destroyed you, killed you. There was a guy in our league, held on to him all season long. I offered very large packages for Keenan Allen, and to only get 50% of the time being a wide receiver 1 and 2, and he said no every time. So that's
that guy kept his guns.
Yeah, he kept to his guns. But Keenan Allen, this is what he does without Phillip Rivers. I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding Keenan Allen. I'm excited to see what the. I mean, okay, if the Los Angeles Chargers sign Tom Brady, then you got yourself a modern day Julian Edelman. So he'll finish as a wide receiver 1, low end.
Yeah.
But if they bring in Jameis the Famous Winston, I actually think that he could be similar to Chris Godwin, not a wide receiver 2, but in that range. He's a slot receiver. So it's
right.
You got to get a guy who likes to throw to the slot. But if they get a guy like Bridgewater, I think that benefits a guy like Mike Williams more than it does Keenan Allen. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with Keenan Allen at this point.
It's a wait and see game.
It's kind of a gross wait and see game. I don't even know if I want to rank him in the top 15.
Yikes.
That's how bad the situation for Los Angeles is to me right now, because they're going to lose out on Tom Brady. They're going to try to sign one of the young quarterbacks. Then they're going to get screwed out of a quarterback, and they're going to try to draft one. And Keenan Allen's going to sit here and try to figure out how to play while Hunter Henry's playing for the New England. It's March 13th is when
is the NFL draft?
Tampering can start. The draft is at the end of April.
Okay. So it's significantly, most players get signed at least by middle of April.
Yeah, technically free agency really begins on the 19th, I believe, or the 16th.
Of March?
Yeah, but tampering starts on the 13th, so everyone signs between the 13th and whenever free agency technically begins. So I mean, like I said, Tom Brady will go back to New England. Hunter Henry is going to leave. There's going to be a lot of change, and I think Keenan Allen's going to be kind of left in the dark on this. And if they have a rookie quarterback or they have a guy that they didn't expect to, if Miami doesn't really have Ryan Fitzpatrick back and they sign him and you know what I mean? It just doesn't, Fitzpatrick is made Devontae Parker look good. But Keenan Allen, I don't know. I don't think he can finish as a wide receiver 1, maybe a low end wide receiver 2. That's how gross it is for me right now in that situation. But anyway. Amari Cooper, number 9, shouldn't have finished number 9. He was doing so good.
He was just like
I was
Keenan
so
Allen.
proud of Amari Cooper. I was like, 56% of the time, wide receiver 1 and 2. He had 25% wide receiver 1, 31%
He
wide
went
receiver
right back
2.
to his old ways.
Oh, man. He was like, for the first 5-6 weeks, he was a wide receiver 1. It was clear.
Yeah,
It was
just like
okay, this
Oakland.
guy's good. And then all of a sudden, he
did that. He's
pooped
been doing
himself.
that his whole career.
Another Dallas player completely crapping themselves 90% of the time. So I was so shocked. I was like, no. Amari.
I know.
I really want to. I actually wanted to trade for him multiple times, but I knew it would never happen. Yeah, that team in your league, is never going to trade a player.
Yeah.
Yep, and I don't even try.
Yeah. He's another guy I really wanted to draft. I was going to draft him instead of Melvin Gordon in the 4th round, I
and
think.
then Amari got drafted in our league in like the 2nd round.
Yeah, he
Something like
got
that.
drafted. It was 3rd round, but it was like early 3rd.
Yeah, something felt like for a 2nd
He was projected to go like early 4th.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, Amari wasn't bad in any way.
no, if you
But-
drafted him in the 4th round, I think you got
What shocked me is that he ended as a wide receiver. Ended as the wide receiver 9
Yeah.
when he was playing very well. He was like kind of like the non-talked. I think Dallas as a whole completely collapsed as the further along they got into the season, because I remember the first 3-4 weeks of the season, everyone was talking about how good Dallas's offense was under Kellen Moore, and then it slowly got worse. So
Yeah. It's almost like it got figured out.
yeah. The next 2 guys on our list, Julian Edelman and Allen Robinson, number 10 and 11, both finished with a 62. This is funny. They both finished with 62.5 wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2,
Which is pretty good.
percentages. And then they were both 31.25% of the time wide receiver 1s and wide receiver 2s. Both of them were consistent. We talked about Jules early in the season. Start off with Julian really quick.
Yep.
We talked about Jules in the offseason. We said, get yourself a big time wide receiver 1 and then slap Julian Edelman right next to him, and you'll get consistent games from Julian. 62% of the time, wide receiver 1 and 2. He burned me in the playoffs in the last week when I had to win a game.
Yep. Unfortunately.
And I lost because Julian had I think it was 4 points. So I got torched. I lost by like 6. And anyway.
Yeah, that was.
So, but Julian Edelman had 62. Like I don't know. He's consistent. If he has Brady, he's going to stay consistent.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. Julian's not changing. If he gets injured,
So
yes, that changes.
What about the fact that he's like 34?
yeah, that's bad. I don't think it's going to change the fact that to me, he's still a mid-range wide receiver 2.
Okay.
And he's consistent enough to be one as long as Brady's there. But if Brady's gone,
I think he's still going to be good, but maybe a slight, like he might drop a few spots.
and then A-Rob, it sounds like Chicago. You know what? I'll just say it. Chicago freaking is sticking with the Mitch Trubisky show.
No, they are. They've already announced it.
So Allen Robinson actually finally had some good games. It makes me wonder, what do you be like with a good
it's
quarterback?
so annoying.
But where do you think his value is for next season?
If he
Because
still has Trubisky, I'd say high-end wide receiver 2.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. It makes me a little bit hesitant because he's not going to give you those big wide receiver 1 games, but he's good enough to give you consistent wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 performances.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, think about the fact that he's had Blake Bortles and
yeah.
Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback,
Right.
and he's still like a decent household name. You know how good you have to be for that
To make
happen?
Mitch Trubisky look good?
Yeah.
But anyway, and then the final guy, so gross. These numbers are disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't even want to know how many games he played in. Mike Evans finishes the wide receiver 12. 38% of the time, he finished as a wide
Pretty
receiver
good.
1.
That's pretty good.
0% of the
Oh,
time, he
that's
finished
not
as a wide receiver 2, which means that Mike Evans finished as a wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 2 38.46% of the time, which is among the worst of the top 12. It is the worst in the top 12.
Yeah.
Mike Evans is the epitome of inconsistency. If Jameis Winston is back in Tampa with Bruce Arians as the head coach, I don't like Matt Evans next year. I don't care if he finishes the wide receiver 12 or not. I'm putting him on a do not draft list.
If Jameis Winston
is back, I just can't. I can't do it. He's so inconsistent. He's gonna have games. He's gonna have
I would draft him, just not early, which he probably would get drafted early.
Right. Okay. Yes, I agree with you there. Like if it's a fourth, fifth round, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that.
I would draft him fourth for sure.
I wouldn't do it.
I probably wouldn't do it third either. Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, Mike Evans is so good, though. I'm going to try to get a sleeper."
He monster weeks.
He might actually be able to get.
He's like Tyreek Hill from last year,
right?
A little bit, but the difference was Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
and Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston.
Yeah, see, the problem is that Jameis Winston's not bad for fantasy at all.
No, he's not. But he's gonna
he might lose his job very quickly next year. But
yeah, he might not even.
That's why I'm just like, I'm afraid to put a lot of stock in the Tampa Bay wide receiver core, especially if Jameis is there, because how short of a leash is Jameis Winston on? You know?
Oh gosh, I don't even think he's returning, to be completely honest.
Yeah, no, he probably won't.
I think the Bucs are going to have a different quarterback.
But I just don't, for me, I'm not a huge fan of Mike Evans at this point. I think he's just far too inconsistent. So that'll do it for our top 12. In the consistency series, we're going to talk about QBs. I really want to just talk about quarterbacks. Wide receivers, 13 through 24 on the next episode. So be sure to check that out. Do you have any closing thoughts for our audience? Fan base, whatever you want to call it.
Usually I make a joke, but rest in peace, Kobe.
Yeah, rest in peace, Kobe. Don't forget to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and talk to you on Thursday, Fantasy Champs.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.